welcome to This Explainer. Today we're hitting the gas on America's creepiest road lore, and we're going to pull back the curtain to see exactly how modern digital creators actually engineer those nightmares for your screen.
You know, the automobile completely transformed the United States, giving people this unprecedented sense of mobility. But what's fascinating is that this newfound freedom almost immediately spawned a century of really strange, high-speed folklore out on the open road. So let's kick things off with Section 1, Dawn of Phantom Cars, looking at a century of spectral sedans. As cars began dominating the landscape in the early 1900s, supernatural tales rapidly shifted from your standard old-world phantom carriages to high-speed ghost vehicles. It's wild to see how our folklore literally evolves side by side with our tech. Just look at this timeline. The scares go from a phantom motorist terrifying police in Pittsburgh Schenley Park back in 1905 right into the infamous haunted car Ghostina in 1917, and it doesn't stop. Cut to 2004, where homeowners in Virginia were repeatedly hearing the ghostly crunch of gravel from an invisible car in their driveway. These stories have been haunting us from the very first Model T up to the modern era. Now, what's truly fascinating here is just how cinematic these early urban legends were. Take this notorious 1911 incident reported at Devil's Bend by the Pittsburgh Gazette-Times. It reads, "The motor car was seen to be occupied by two skeletons, one of which calmly lit a cigarette as the automobile skidded over the embankment." I mean, come on, that is incredibly vivid. You can almost see that playing out in a movie, right? And then there's the story of Ghostina. Back in 1917, a car dubbed Ghostina supposedly idled so violently in a New York garage that it seemed to be going 55 miles per hour, while completely parked. Hundreds of people actually flocked to see it because witnesses claimed that at exactly 2 a.m. every single night, it held a vaporous driver and passenger. All right, let's steer our road trip out west into some of the most isolated blacktop on Earth for Section 2, Nevada's Haunted Highways, a journey into the desolate West. A crucial point of this journey brings us to Highway 50. It's famously known as the loneliest road in America, and for good reason. Driving this route means you are entirely surrounded by barren desert, basically cut off from the rest of the world. And if you manage to make it down this desolate route into the town of Eureka, you'll stumble across spots like the historic Jackson House Hotel. It was built back in 1877 during the mining boom, and it's a relic that still retains a deeply unsettling, heavily haunted vibe today. Honestly, the extreme, suffocating isolation of the road leading up to it just completely amplifies that eerie atmosphere. Now, if ghost cars and haunted hotels aren't exactly your speed, let's take a quick detour to another famous Nevada stretch where the scares actually come from above. Welcome to Section 3, the extraterrestrial route, aliens and asphalt. We're talking about State Route 375. This is a stretch of road so synonymous with the unexplained that Nevada officially renamed it the Extraterrestrial Highway back in 1996. Because it borders the top-secret Area 51 military base, this highway boasts a massive volume of reported UFO sightings. Travelers will flock to the tiny town of Rachel, which, by the way, has a population of only about 50 people, just to drop into the little alien and swap stories of flying saucers and mysterious lights hovering over the desert. So we have all these incredible, creepy stories rooted in our history. But how do modern digital creators take this rich road lore and perfectly recreate that exact tension on your screen? Let's break it down in Section 4, Engineering the Scare, the Mechanics of Modern Fear. Think about the last time you literally jumped out of your seat during a movie. Sound designers are essentially hacking your nervous system using a very calculated 3-step audio formula. First, you have the riser, that builds speed, intensity, and volume to really put you on edge. Then the silence, which leaves just a few seconds to lull you into a false sense of security. And finally, the stinger. That's the loud, unexpected crack of sound that hits right alongside the visual jump scare. But hey, sound isn't just for the big, flashy jump scares. Even when absolutely nothing is happening on a dark, cinematic road, layering subtle ambient audio, things like faint creaks, wind, and little whispers, builds this creepy atmosphere that tricks your brain into staying on high alert the whole time. Visually, to mimic that frantic, chaotic feeling of capturing a UFO or a phantom car on a smartphone, editors will deliberately manufacture camera shake. When they're in software like Premiere Pro, they apply a transform effect, scale the image up just a bit so the black edges are hidden off screen, and then aggressively animate the position keyframes. You throw in some artificial motion blur, and suddenly a perfectly stable, boring shot feels intensely and realistically terrifying. But of course, brilliant sound design and shaky cameras don't mean a thing if you can't properly light the scene to distort reality. That brings us to Section 5, Visualizing the Darkness, Lighting the Unknown. Filmmakers use lighting to completely isolate characters in the dark. While daytime horror generally relies on soft, natural light to build a moody atmosphere, nighttime scenes use underlighting. Think about the harsh beam of a flashlight pointing upward at someone's chin. It heavily distorts their facial features and plunges the surrounding environment into absolute blackness. It is incredibly effective. What is truly fascinating about all this is how these distinctly American highway and motel legends have seamlessly evolved into a global digital phenomenon. Let's look at our final part, Section 6, Globalizing the American Scare, Exporting the Highway Horror. If you look at international content, like the wildly popular USA Story Hindi channels on YouTube, you'll see these exact American tropes being exported to massive global audiences. For example, they feature adaptations like The House That Called Every Night. It's this chilling story about a 22-year-old guy named Daniel who rents a cheap old house in an American town, but his landlord gives him this bizarre warning: whatever you do, don't answer the phone after 2 a.m. The first night is completely fine, but at exactly 2:13 a.m., the old landline rings. Daniel ignores it. Second night, same exact thing. But by the third night, curiosity gets the better of him and he picks it up. There's dead silence for a few seconds, and then the slow, faint whisper says, "Daniel, you're not alone." He slams the phone down and flips on every light in the house. Everything looks normal. But then he hears the ringtone again, coming from the hallway. The problem is, the landline is still sitting right there in his hand. He slowly opens his bedroom door, and at the far end of the corridor is this old-school telephone that was absolutely never in the house before, and written right next to it is a message: 2:13 a.m., answer me. Daniel left and never went back, but supposedly local police records claim a call still comes from that empty house at 2:13 a.m. every single night. It just goes to show that our obsession with these tropes, ringing phantom phones, midnight apparitions, and cursed locations, it's a completely universal language of fear. So, the next time you find yourself out on a lonely highway at night, or you hear a strange noise at 2 a.m., you have to ask yourself, are you truly experiencing the supernatural, or is your imagination just perfectly engineered by the media you consume? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep your eyes on the road.